I'm happy to be here to talk to you, just first and foremost. I've been saying a prayer ever since I was a teenager. I was raised Catholic. I didn't really practice one out of obligation, but I have, thank God, for another day of life every day. But I didn't have a strong prayer life. It was just like, I just knew that, like, okay, no, tomorrow's not guaranteed. I had put so many other things ahead of him, drinking or gambling, or, all the trappings that men usually fall into.
Yes.
Seemingly makes people happy. It's those things. And I still didn't know what I was missing.
Church culture.
Yeah. And I've
is in
always
your
been
life?
interested in like the afterlife and all these things that we can't understand really. And like looking at their science, they kind of back some of the stuff. I found Terry, and he was doing a series on near-death experience.
Online?
I think it was a live feed, and I just was checked into it. Folks, and I'm like, this is a church that's actually talking about people that have had near-death experiences, what they've seen. That pulled me and my family in. But and that was kind of like things were just starting to kind of build for me. I remember being here many Sundays and just praying like, okay, last week I said on Sunday I was going to do X, Y, and Z this week to give back more and do something instead of just talk about it and pray. Back at the end of last year, I left my job. I thought I wanted to get right back into the workforce, and it hasn't happened as fast as I thought I wanted it to. But now as I see here today, it was a total blessing, because up until then, I had worked ever since I'd been a kid. Like my first real job was on a commercial fishing boat in Alaska as a teenager. Right. It's grueling.
Sure.
My brothers
did they compensate well? Just curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, I was a teenager. I made one half of what the boat made. In like a week, I made $1,000, and that was like $1 million to me.
Of course.
Right. So I came back flush with cash, like, buying speakers for my car and all the dumb stuff that kids would buy. So I thought, okay, neck up works for me. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do something that doesn't involve grinding my body down to nothing.
Right.
And I did. And it's been wonderful and very rewarding. What I've only recently learned is there's yet another place to work from, and that's the heart. So as I started thinking about, okay, what do I want to do next? Do I want to just jump back into a job that's selling some sort of commodity to a consumer, and ultimately it's the shareholder that I'm serving? Or can I find something that really allows me to become a finer instrument of his peace, of Jesus' peace, and help serve people in a way that's, pleasing to him? Right. I don't need $10 million in 2 houses and 3 speedboat. Right. I've realized that the things that really truly make me happy aren't any of those things.
You're really describing like eternal work there. It would be like another way of saying that if you think about it, because anything person-related, human-related is eternal.
Outlast this life.
Outlast this life.
That's the only thing you can take with you, I think they say, when you found this place, loved it, feel the Holy Spirit, especially when you sing and your group up there. It's priceless. It's you can't describe it.
Thank you, man. God be the glory. That's so amazing.
Yeah, you brought me to tears in there. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, what is that? It's kind of around the same time the job situation had transpired. So Sean Ryan Show, Father Dan Rahill's on. He's in his late 40s now, but prior to becoming a ordained Catholic priest, he was a Wall Street banker.
That part I forgot right now.
As soon as I heard that, I'm like, I need to listen to this guy's story.
Wow.
And, really taking what is quite the story and really just kind of truncating it down to something digestible. He was born Catholic, raised Catholic, but unfortunately his priest started molesting him when he was 8.
That blew me away, that part.
The fact he's a priest now? Right. And I think it was 8 to 11, but his parents didn't know. He didn't tell them. The priest would come over to the house to to go teach Dan, and he kept it to himself. But as soon as he could get away, he ran from the church, ran from God, ran from all of it, and ran towards, what's the opposite of that? Money. And he did become that Wall Street banker, and had all those trappings, had a lot of success in that regard. He said he had the big New York wedding, which then led to the big New York divorce. But it was still kind of like, this cycle of make a lot of money, party, travel the world. And he was in Italy. And a female friend of his was in this town called Medjugorje, which was near Italy. And she's like, hey, do you want to come over next week, before you go home, just, to see this part of the world? And he thought it was going to be like another, just extension of his trip,
Sure.
Nice restaurants and all that stuff. But he didn't know that, the Blessed Mother Virgin Mary had been appearing there since like the early 80s to these 6 visionaries. So he gets to that that town, and he realizes this is not, this nightlife, Riviera thing I had in mind. This is horrible. I'm gonna get out of here tomorrow. But when he wakes up, he has this incredible sense of peace that's overcome him that he can't even describe.
Yeah.
And he's just floored by it. And he realizes, well, if I'm going to stay here, I probably have to go to confession, because these last 20 some years, 22 years, he's done some things that, if
So
he's
the
going to be,
conscience, yeah.
So he said he started priest shopping, because there's a lot of priests there that, it's a kind of a mecca now. And he found one that looked like, he'd be the right guy for his confession. He said this priest was holding court with these women. They were all laughing. He was all tan, smoking a cigarette. It's like, that's my guy. Right. Goes over, gives his confession. He said a very salty confession. And at the end, the priest says to him, I think you have a calling to be a priest. And he's stunned. He's like, did you hear what I just said? Like,
Great story.
It's awesome. And I'll cut just one aside. He did go back to Medjugorje years after that and ran into that same priest. Didn't think the priest would know him. Recognized him immediately. He said, I've been praying for you every day. Did you become a priest? And he's like, yes, I did. I can't believe you've been praying for me this whole time.
From the priest perspective.
Oh, I know.
Right.
It blew his mind.
Yeah, right.
So it didn't happen overnight. So, he went back to New York, back to his job, but kind of knew, like, okay, everything's different. Started praying the rosary, started going to daily mass, and got a spiritual director. And then over time, realized, he was looking for a sign. And his spiritual director said, hey, just, pray about it. Pray for his guidance. What does he want you to do?
Yeah.
So that was his prayer. He said 1 week later, he came back. He's like, it didn't work. I haven't heard anything.
Right.
And his spiritual director said to him, so let me get this straight. You've been away from the church for 22 years. You come back, and in 1 week, you think he's just supposed to, like, drop everything and answer you. You keep praying.
Right.
No, he does. And I think it took 18 months, and he was in church, and he heard this distinct voice right behind him just say, follow me. It was nobody there. He heard it clear as day.
Powerful.
And then 3 other things happened that same day that confirmed it. One was a prayer card that showed up on a desk at a place he went that no one put there. So he came in, nobody was there, picked up the prayer card. It just said, follow me on it. And then went to his meeting, came back out, and he asked I think it was some sisters that were working the desk, where'd those prayer cards go? And they're like, what are you talking about? They were right here in a little rack, said, follow me on them. Like, no, we didn't put out any prayer cards. So he's like, okay. So then his corporate mind takes over. How can I get ordained the fastest?
This guy, man.
So he goes to his computer. He's like looking up all these different ways to do it, which is the quickest route. He found one order that you could, like, get there in 4 years. And he went down that route. And, like, right in the, like, I think he had 3 months left. The new superior came in and said, okay, anybody that's here that's over 40, you're out. It's not happening. Just, you're done. So he had to start over again. Well, long story short, it took him 11 years, which is like how long it takes most priests to get ordained. And he finally became one in Tennessee. And he said a prayer that, look, if I'm going to be ordained, a bishop's going to have to call me directly, and then we'll talk. Knowing full well, bishops don't call people in the seminary to come become a priest. Like, that's not how it works. So he goes back to Wall Street.
He's giving himself an out.
Goes back to Wall Street. And he's doing his old thing, and the phone rings, and there's a man on the other end of the phone that says he's a bishop. And he's like, yeah, right, sure. Like, who is this? He's pulling my leg. Well, it's this bishop from Tennessee. Said he'd heard about him, like him to come down and visit. It turned out to be the real thing. He shows up. The bishop picks him up in a car, which is not like bishops don't pick up, seminarians. I don't know what the proper terminology is. And he just lived at that guy's house for a whole week. And the guy made him, food, would take him around to his different meetings he had, and introduce him. And at the end of the week, he's like, you're ready. I'd like you to become, I'd like to ordain you if you're willing and become a priest here in Tennessee. And he was overjoyed. Yes.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
And at that point, you're confident too, because how else would have this happened if I wasn't supposed to do this? Right.
Exactly.
All the box check.
Yeah. I mean, you can't explain. Yeah. He knew. He said to Father Dan Rahill, one confession is more powerful than 1,000 exorcisms.
Wow.
And I'm like sitting there hearing that. I'm like, oh, wow. I know the devil, works through tempting people and these things that, gets them to be slaves to sin. And Father Dan says that's why confession's so powerful, because the devil only knows you by your sin. When you're done, he doesn't know who you are anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
So he can't just come right back with all the same temptations. So here I am, somewhat of a still the gambler mindset, like, well, I have nothing to lose. I mean, I know what my vices are. I'm going to go give this a shot. Leading up to that first confession, I had a lot of thinking to do because it's 33 years
Sure.
of, not the best choices.
Right.
And
who doesn't relate to that?
This examination of consciousness, or, that
it's almost like unearthing your past, like doing, which most of the time we numb ourselves so we don't have to do that. You're trying to do it.
Right. No.
Right.
Yeah. And it wasn't, I didn't get it all out the first time. When I was done then, I'm like, oh, forgot about X, Y, and Z. I went back, these things that used to be, that I really was a slave to. But, to the outside world, it didn't look like Mike Nolan had any problems, but I knew, what I struggled with.
Yeah.
They weren't nearly as powerful.
Confessing your sins with your mouth.
And you're honestly, you want forgiveness.
Yeah. Genuineness.
Not because you're trying to get out of jail free card or
some sort of manipulation, take down an angle.
If it's, like a true confession.
Well, what I thought was cool about that, what you said there, which I've experienced as well, is that there is a supernatural spiritual action that follows that action, which we almost, because we're such materialists and we don't believe in the supernatural, which is so foolish. We're taught that way since we're kids. We're taught in the West, you want to solve a problem, you throw a materialist answer at it. But what that proves is that there are shackles in the supernatural realm that are undone by confession of sin. And now that's very powerful.
I'm like, I just couldn't believe it. I come into contact with people I haven't seen since all this has happened. It's like, I feel like I owe them a story.
Got it.
I don't know why that is. And I don't mind talking about it.
Put into context what they're experiencing, right?
Right. And some people are, I don't want to say turned off, but because I just choose not to do things I used to do. You hear that people don't change, but you've seen people that have changed. So you're like, okay, there's possible. And oh, by the way, I have some very young, impressionable kids that look up to me. Anything I do say, sometimes think they know it. So they knew where I was kind of battling, especially my older son. Well, both of them, they're very in tune. And I didn't want to give this example of like, here are the things that make dad happy, so you should go chase those.
Right.
Right. And I'll just call it out for what it is. Drinking was one of them, right? Like, oh, dad's with his friends, they like to, have some drinks. And I'm not knocking anybody that does it. It was something that I was starting to put I had been putting in front of God.
Right.
And really, when I stepped back and took an honest look at it, in front of a lot of things, it was just like, and it wasn't like, oh, I want to go get hammered all the time at all. It wasn't that. It was just like, yeah, I'd like to have one or two. But then I as I got older, I would see the impact became greater.
Yes.
Like not getting up as, like
I wanted the cost ratio analysis of it all. Yeah.
Oh, the cost benefit analysis was so lopsided. Yeah. It was like for a long time, like, why am I continuing to do this?
But the blind spots are also increasing with it. I know it very well. I know the battles of the flesh.
That I'm in, that was very common. It's just like, a thing. But, I learned from others that, have gone away from it, how you can kind of still be in society and not have that be. So for me now, it's not like it's a temptation. It's more like me being cognizant of how it makes other people feel.
Yes,
and part of me is like, I don't really care. But the other part of me is like, okay, I just grew up in a family, a Catholic.
Oh yeah.
Come on, man. It was like a brain chemistry standpoint. It's all about releasing dopamine, right?
Yeah, right.
And the easiest shortcuts to getting there are the vices most men have in their lives: drinking, pornography, gambling, adrenaline, sport.
Yeah.
But it's fine, right? Like to release dopamine if there's an effort involved first. All those things I just named don't require effort first. The things you can release dopamine with, the right way, exercise,
working out,
the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit.
And that's the one that, after I turned away from the bottle or whatever you want to call it, I finally really felt it physically.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I remember. So I don't even think I told anybody at first. It started here, like when you guys were singing, like, the Holy Spirit's there. You just feel this.
Yes, I very much know that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm either at church or or somewhere else where or even if I'm hearing something now that is really touching, I'll feel it. It's right on my forehead, right in this area.
Wow.
And
That's
I've
so
begun
cool.
asking other people about it. Like, do you feel this? And
Dude, I love that you're saying this because we don't, mind, body, soul, that's what we are. Mind, body,
Yeah.
soul. It's a fact. And they're connected. And
No,
we
they
think
totally
of
are.
them as separate, but they're
No,
really
but you have
connected.
to be, so part of me not wanting to go back to all those vices was like, I don't want to screw this up. I don't want to
Dull it or
put that film over me. Yes, it's so hard to put into words.
The Bible describes some of the stuff that you're describing. They use words like veils over eyes, and like there is supernatural like blockers that I think it's because we numb ourselves.
Right. This Lent for me was transformative. That was a huge part of this too. Like Lent for years, like sometimes I did it, sometimes I didn't. And if I did do anything, it was like nothing. Now that I know more about Lent, you're not supposed to like go brag about all the stuff. So I'm not going to do that. But I just will never forget this past year because I know I'm not going back to that old guy. You kind of got to go all in though. I was listening to another priest named Father Mark Beard, who's passed away recently, but he was talking about the fence. And for years, I realized I've been on the fence. You know, I would live one life, you know, a certain part of the day and live another life.
Who doesn't relate to that?
Right? Like,
right. Who doesn't relate to that?
And he said, you know, I think Johnny Cash was talking about the fence and he realized the devil owns the fence. Okay.
Yeah. I love Johnny Cash.
So I just had this vision in my mind of like this fence. And I just took out a piece of paper, drew a fence on it. And I drew what was on the wrong side of the fence. And it was dark. It was selfishness. It was evil. It was bad. And like I drew the line and the line just went down. I drew a down arrow. And then I drew the other side of the fence. What's on the other side of the fence? It's God. It's light. It's selflessness. And where do you want to plant your flag? Because you got to plant it sometime. You can't be on a fence your whole life. And like, I'm 46. I got to plant this thing sometime. And I'm done being on the fence.
Well said, man. It's so good.
And I just didn't want to be just on the other side of the fence. So I drew this mountain on the other side. And over top of the mountain, that's where I put my flag because I don't want to be anywhere near.
That's really powerful.
It's still in my fridge.
I love that. I love that. You know what I love about that? It's very men understand, like allegiance. Like that's been so powerful to me. You know, we live in a culture that they will tolerate like Mickey Mouse Christianity. But if you get serious about this, it's like we are in a war. If you're a general, you don't care about these guys that are like hiding in a ditch. You care about these guys that are bringing the pain, right? Like fighting the war. You veer your head up in this battle. And it is true that the enemy notices those people. And suddenly you
targets them.
They target.
Back to the evil.
But like eternity, I keep saying, I want to be on offense. That's what happened to me when I had my like road to Damascus. I want to be on off. Yes. Like all these guys that build all these houses on sand. It doesn't make any sense. You know, it's not going to make any difference. The Queen of England, she was one of the most famous human beings. She had established fame in a time when you could be famous globally. She also was a savvy businesswoman, so she had amassed more wealth than any monarch. She died 3 years ago. I haven't heard her name mentioned one time in conversation since she died. That's as famous as you get. That's as rich as you get, and zero craps given 3 years later.
Accumulate as much wealth and property.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It's my point.
You can't take it with you.
You can't. But the things that do matter are what you build in the kingdom. It was what you're talking about. Like you can't even see the kingdom. There's all this spiritual battle to blind you, to get you to look right now. And yeah, when you wake up from that, it's almost like the Matrix is a powerful analogy in that movie. And when you start talking about things of the supernatural, you really start talking about stuff like this. I can't tell you how many Christians, like I can see in their nonverbals, they want to shut this all down when you start talking about this.
This is my favorite thing to talk about.
Me too, because I think that's because you've seen it. I think it's fear. That's where
people want to, knowledge, right? Knowledge. A lot of people like to accumulate that knowledge, but you can only be wise, right? Like, so those are two very different things. Wisdom is knowledge applied. This wisdom is coming from somewhere else and you're articulating it and other people have never gone there. That's why they're turned off or scared or want to get out of that conversation. Let's talk about, the new thing we just bought.
Frivolous.
It's because they have nothing to relate to. And like what comes next, they'd rather spend more time planning their next trip to Disneyland than they do their afterlife. They don't,
which is powerful when you think about it like that. When you just said it like that, it's so true.
It's true.
They put all this time and effort and detail.
How many people do you see go retire and then they're dead in a year?
Dude, the other thing that I encourage Christians to do all the time is talk with your mouth about heaven. Like, even if you don't know, even if it's a divine imagination, whatever it is, because what doing that does is it turns your mind away from the kingdom of man into the kingdom of heaven.
This man's definition of being rich changed from not how much he had, but how much he didn't need.
Oh, that's good wording.
It
I
is.
like that wording.
And as it kind of just set in over the years, it's like, it's not a whole lot, right? Like we
not
give
really.
thanks every day for the food in the fridge and the freezer, water, both hot and cold. Like, the more specific you can be,
I like that,
and saying thank you for it, I think the better. And then I pray for my, for the gratitude I have, for me to have greater gratitude for the gratitude. Like, I'm like,
really good, man.
And this stuff's happening to me.
I'm going to do that. Gratitude for the gratitude.
Yeah, if that can deepen.
That's wonderful.
And the other one recently is just, not only do I pray for, the ability to love him more every day and get to know him more every day, but I want to, feel his love and see his love more and more every day, and have, become deeper and deeper. And it's, when you kind of, it starts to happen, it just changes everything. Like, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's Wayne Dyer.
That's really good.
And it's, and then we're just trapped into using words to try to describe these things that are
outside of language.
Yeah.
That's one of the wonderful things about being a musician, is like, the human experience has limitations. We're limited. We're in this tent that is limited. And music, I was always drawn to it because it takes words a little bit further.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But if you look at life and death, and you see basically two different types of people come into the point where they know they're going to die. One full of faith, very excited to be going to heaven. The man I met last week, and as soon as they unplugged him, he knew that was it, but he was just so ready, but also like doesn't know what it's going to be like, but is so ready. Oh, and wow. His family's sitting there like, oh God, he's talking about it again. Like, they don't want him to go because he's such a great guy. And then you see some other folks that they're just petrified and they don't know, but they feel comforted by people coming in to pray for him. It's like, okay, well, who do I want to be in the end? And, if I'm sitting there on my deathbed, so to speak, do I want to be sitting there and my regrets are, wow, I wish I worked more or made more money? No, it's always going to come back to me. For me, I wish I could help more people. I wish I wasn't so selfish. I wish I didn't waste all this time doing X, Y, and Z.
Yes. Yes. Well said.
And I don't think any of these realizations could have happened without my church family, the church family here, especially because, we didn't have any foundation and our faith when we moved here in 2016. And we're kind of just like, I believe in Jesus, and I think I'm a good person.
Obedience, real obedience, not like leveraged or angling, obedience flows from the heart.
You have to ask for it though. Period. Like I firmly believe that. And, for people that may be listening to this that think people don't change, they do change, but they have to want to change and they have to ask and pray. And I think the other part is like realizing that not every thought you have or feeling you have is necessarily your own, meaning the evil one is very present and he can influence people the way they feel. And that if he gets them to act in a certain way, he loves that.
Yes.
And you probably know what that is for you. He loves people getting angry. He's very good at that. But you don't have to be slave to that. You don't have to be slave to your sins. I didn't know I was slave to sin until recently.
Yeah.
And not being slave to sin,
way better.
Dude.
Nolan, brave. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.